Okay, very good. Thank you, Randy. And my screen is not really behaving the way it has in the past, so I'm using my presentation as the guide, but I don't, in that view, I'm not getting the rest of it. So there are going to be a couple of places in the presentation where I want to flip to another screen, and I don't know if I'll have to reshare that when I do that and then go back. So we'll see how that works, but you'll have to interrupt me and say, you switch, but we don't see anything. So if that happens, then that means I haven't shared it, and I have to go back and do that again. So let me know as we go if we miss a screen. So with that, did that advance? Because I'm not tracking it, from your side.
You're okay.
So, okay, very good. So what we're going to do in this presentation, this is clearly Critter Guard. We keep critters away from, I heard somebody, but we keep critters away from critical power supplies. And basically what this presentation is going to explore is what some of the challenges are with that. And the fact that one of the things that Critter Guard does is that we've, over the years, developed our own tools and techniques to web crawl, if you will, to gather data. So we're able to provide on our website relevant statistics of animal outages, not only in local areas, but really around the world. And so we keep that updated. There's a link in this description. We'll get to that. So we're going to talk about the fact how prevalent those causes are from critters, not just squirrels, but other crawling animals, as well as birds. And the fact that it's so prevalent that a lot of utilities will say, we'll get to that when we have a problem. The point of this presentation is that you're going to have that problem. One of those guys has traveled around the world. I've been in 50 or so countries for extended periods of time over the years, and squirrels are everywhere. And squirrels happen to be the number one non-weather related problem. So we're going to talk about the fact that, it is going to happen. It's just whether you're going to be ready for it. And then we'll obviously talk a little bit about why Critter Guard's products are a little bit different than what you may know or have seen on the market. And then we'll finish up with the Q&A. Randy introduced the company a little bit. We've been around for a while. We started in 2001. We're privately held. We actually got started with some very creative guys that were basically sitting in their mother-in-law's yard, drinking a beer on a holiday weekend, and watching squirrels come over the overhead service entrance cable onto the roof of the house. And basically they were destroying the roof. They turned it into insurance and quickly found out that insurance does not cover animal damage. And so, being creative and maybe a couple of beers into it, they came up with what became the line guard design that Critter Guard still sells today. That product was patented. We've still sell to homeowners, but most of our customers, for the most part, are power utilities, communication utilities, water and sewer districts, architects, engineers, pest control, commercial businesses, refineries, you name it. Universities, pretty much anybody who manages their own power structure. And so that could be a public utility like the big guys, or it could be municipal utilities in a small town, or anybody in between. We ship around the world. We've got, proud to say, we've got customers on every place but Antarctica. We haven't found too many people with squirrels on Antarctica, but every place else we're there. So some evidence about the statements I made about the fact that it is going to happen to you. So this is the first reference to the outage tracker we have, and I'm going to switch over to that if I can see how to do that. Can you see that, Randy?
Yeah, fine. I see your latest power outage statistics
Okay.
and causes track.
Okay, very good. So this is a page on our website. We're not going to go through all this, but I just wanted you to see it. So there's a lot of information here, reference to the sources where it came from. So you can see the first section is about the impact on homeowners and business. I mean, just some interesting statistics. Over 5 million customers in 2023 alone, affected by over almost 74,000 sustained outages. Lots of stuff here. The second section is animal related outages. We've known for a long time. We get data from the American Public Power Association. A lot of major utilities do this themselves. They're sometimes reticent to share their own statistics because they don't really like everybody to know that something is seemingly simple as a squirrel can cause this kind of damage. But it's pretty amazing. If any of you have not seen, for instance, a substation literally blow up and burn to the ground only because of a stupid squirrel, it'll change the way you think about animal mitigation. These products are relatively cheap by comparison to new capital equipment. And so it's just important in our opinion, for all utilities to have a comprehensive animal mitigation strategy. And number one in that strategy should be a discussion about crawling animals, because you can't shoot them, although I've got a number of customers that want to. Depending on where you're located, it's kind of difficult to get away with shooting them. But the Critter Guard solution is a very friendly one. We don't kill, trap, chemically poison, or anything to the animal. All we do is frustrate them, and they have to go away. So they go someplace else. So I encourage you, when you get the time, or if you get this presentation later that Randy sends out, take a look at the links, take a look at this outage tracker, and by all means, let us know your feedback. So I'll go back to the presentation. So there's just some summary there of the stats that I've put on the screen, including the cost here under homeowner business stats. More than 50% of the respondents said the cost of an outage was over $100,000. So as a private business owner, you can't afford to be without power. You lose power and it gets expensive. And when that cause of the power down below, more than 20% of the time, at least in the Midwest of the United States, more than 20% of the time, that's caused by squirrels. And so it's a huge problem. Birds are actually the number 2 source of that. So we'll keep going here. Historically speaking, I mean, the problem doesn't go away. Skip down the last line, 2019. Squirrels caused more than 15,000 animal-related outages. That's according to Entergy, one of the largest public utilities in the country. So it happens everywhere. I mean, in Australia, they don't call them squirrels. It's more similar to like what in the U.S. we call an opossum, but it's still a crawling animal. Duke has, had great success with our product keeping snakes off the line. So that was kind of interesting to learn that. So all kinds of crawling animals can be mitigated using Critter Guard's products. So moving on, when you talk about animal guards, and there's a lot of them, the pictures that you see on the screen are examples of essentially competitors, but they all kind of have a similar approach, and we'll talk about what's unique to Critter Guard. All of these are what we call cages or covers or crowns, anything that covers that device. And you can see a lot of different form factors, and there's nothing necessarily good or bad about any of those. They all have their place and their purpose in the market. But Critter Guard didn't go that way. We're a little different. What we say is that most guards, all those things you just saw, they fit over the critical equipment. It might be a terminal or a bushing or a switch or a transformer, any number of things. And since the ratings of all of those different powered devices can be different, there has to be a guard made specific for that device. So from an engineering point of view, you've got to figure out, what's the device, what's the rating, what's the spacing, what kind of air gap am I going to have between guards so that I don't have a bridging possibility. But with line guard and pole guard, you don't have those problems. Well, you might say, well, why is that? How can you do that? And the answer is here. We're different because we took a different approach. We block the access to those devices rather than try to cover those devices. And we came to that conclusion because of what's common about all overhead equipment. What is that? Well, it's the conductor. They're all wired together. Now, they may be different size conductors, but line guard doesn't care. Animals use the conductor as a highway, is the way we describe it. It's just a means to get someplace. So line guard, our primary product, is a series. It's called lots of different names: spinners, rollers, all kinds of things. But basically, it's line guard from critter guard, and its primary interest is to block the highway. No different than you traveling on an interstate highway or a motorway, and the construction crews come out because they're working on an overhead bridge. So what do? Almost a mile or so before the construction site, before the critical incident, they start moving you into another lane. Well, line guard basically does that to a squirrel. It says, you can't come this way. He can't get over it. So he's got to go back the way he came and find a different path. And that's why it works. So we take the same approach with our pole guard product. Pole guard does the same thing, only on a power pole. So the pole is the highway from the ground where the animal might be up to, and all these animals want to crawl up because they're getting away from whatever predator it might be. Could be a dog or cat in your own backyard, or it could be a fox or a raccoon or something like that in a power station, a substation. And so they'll use the pole to get up above the ground and get away from the predator. But once they're up there, now they're curious and they're going to find a place to nest, or they're going to make babies, or whatever they're going to do. But they're curious and they cause problems. And so we block that access so they can't get up the highway and they can't get across the highway. And so, simply put, it's a virtual overhead fence. So line guard is a near universal solution, meaning that we don't really care what the voltage of that line is, because we're not an insulator. It's not being used or applied in an electrical insulation environment. It's simply a plastic blockade on the line. And so we say the name of the product is line guard, but it makes it sound like it's guarding the line, but in fact, it's guarding the assets on the line. And so you put the blockade wherever it's convenient, and it keeps them from getting to other pole-mounted equipment that might be further down the line. So the design is one that moves. It's not just a rigid, static cover. It actually, moves. I'm going to switch back to another screen here, Randy. If I can find you.
Like,
And can you see this if I hold it up?
yeah.
So this is just a show and tell of a single roller on a conductor. And you can see that it spins easily. You can also see it's a hard, rigid plastic shell. And so it basically is a obstacle course for the squirrels and other animals. And so it's a very simple device to put up. Once it's up, it's there for a long, long time. We've had them in service without maintenance for well over 20 years. The movement, because it doesn't move by itself, it only moves when the animal engages with it. So as the animal has his own curiosity moving down the line, he's going to try to figure out how to get over it. And as soon as he does, it spins. And then because it's a very hard shell, he can't get his claws into it. He can't bite it. And then sooner or later, after a couple of minutes, he's irritated and he said, this ain't worth it. I'm going someplace else. We've found them to be effective against literally all types of crawling animals, including snakes, monkeys, even sloths. Some sloths are a protected species in certain parts of the world. And that's forced the utility to say, hey, we've got to do something, because the last thing we want is an outage involving a sloth. And now we've got a public relations nightmare in our hand as well. So that's another key point. So there's a video I'm going to switch to now. Hopefully, can you see that, everybody? Randy?
Yeah, fine. No problem. I see.
Okay, so this video, when we first got it, customer sent this to us. We thought it was a squirrel, but the more we've looked, it's like that doesn't have a bushy tail. It's just got a straight tail. So we think we probably call that what we call a roof rat. But you'll see what it does. This is on an overhead surface entrance cable to a customer's
Sorry,
house.
John. I cannot see the video.
Oh, Randy, he said he can't see it.
Yeah, I can see it just fine, John.
I don't know. There's a customer's got another problem because one of the people just said he couldn't see it, but hopefully everybody else can. And if you can't, this will be linked. It's on our website. It's also on a YouTube channel. So there's lots of places to see this. But basically what happens is the squirrel approaches it. He can't figure out how to get over this first jump barrier wheel. It spins him upside down. And as he gets irritated, if he's really ambitious, he'll actually try to figure out, well, maybe I could get over it. And that's the reason there are 5 independent rollers. And you can see what happens is once he tries to jump that wheel, he'll end up on the 3rd or 4th, or if he's really good, maybe the 5th wheel, the 5th roller, and the hard shell just spins him right off. So that's the reason they're independent rollers. This is not just one roller. They've all got to be independent. They've all got to spin independently. So we wanted to make that point. So, and again, for those of you that didn't see it, let me know. It's available, linked in the presentation as well as on our YouTube channel. Just go to YouTube and type in Critter Guard and you'll find us.
John, I put a link in the chat to the YouTube video that you're referring to.
Okay, great. So going to move on here. More information about where you can use line guard. We talked about it's basically on any overhead conductor. So again, we don't really care if it's a 10 kV line distribution or a 11 or 35 or 77. You see down at the bottom, we've got customers that have put it on transmission lines up to 77. We generally find, I don't know if anybody's tried it, but you usually don't have animal mitigation issues on very high voltage transmission lines because the animals just don't climb that high. So for the most part, the distribution lines are where we're the biggest, and all kinds of distribution lines. Could be feeder lines to a substation, single phase service entrance, 3-phase lines, even guy wires, structural cables. Doesn't have to be a powered line. It has nothing to do with the power. So, and you can install it anywhere on the line between where a critter would come onto it. Like for instance, they'd come onto it from a building, a roof line, maybe a tree, and drop on a line, and then whatever you want to protect. Pole mounted equipment, a substation, wherever that line goes. You have a couple of options to put it on. It can put it on de-energized, which a lot of our customers do because they have the choice. They can have some redundancy. so they'll depower it, and then it becomes very easy. It's a 15-minute install. Or if you're going to put it on hot, some of our customers have asked us for what we call a hotline clamp. So you can use your insulated gloves to snap it over the line. That's easy. But then the clamping on the end of it can be done with a hot stick using a special clamp that we offer as well. Some people use that, some people don't, but we're here to help answer those questions. And then we also have, some conveniences for customers that have used it on triplex lines. Like, for instance, you'll see in the picture on the left of the screen, that's a triplex service entrance cable. Those might have 2, 3, or even 4 conductors and or structural cables in the bundle. And what we've done is pre-cut the roller so the opening of the roller is larger than default. By default, it's a 1-inch opening, but some triplex lines are bigger than that. So we just cut it back, and then the key point is that the roller needs to be able to spin freely around the cable or cable bundle. And then the clamping you see there is easily done with a hot stick. So that's how that works. The next product I want to introduce you to, if you don't know, is our pole guard. Pole guard is also a blockade on the pole. It uses the same rollers that you see in line guard, and we have 2 different mounting mechanisms so we can deal with wood poles as well as steel and concrete poles. Basically, this thing is a blockade on the pole, and they just can't get by it. So it's different than a lot of people have used the pole wraps. We've heard from a number of those people that have come back and bought pole guard because the pole wraps can be jumped. If a squirrel gets a head start going up the pole, they just scamper right past it like it's not even there. But pole guard is a blockade, so they can't get by it. Again, I don't have a great video of it in a utility setting, but I have a video of it in, I have a video of it in a private yard. This is a pecan tree that is the exact same diameter as a pole, a little less than 12 inches in diameter. And you can see the squirrel trying to get to the pecans above. Pole guard was mounted on the tree. Several years later, it had to be taken down because the tree keeps growing. But you can see how frustrated the squirrel gets. He literally can't get by it. So he had to find another way to get to that tree with nuts in it. So you can see he tries all the way around it. We've seen some of them. Unfortunately, I haven't got the video. We've seen some squirrels hang upside down on those plates and then try to crawl over the rollers on the outside, and that didn't work either. So yeah, the squirrels get really frustrated when they're confronted with pole guard and line guard. Here's some, utility examples. This particular one's a water and sewer station, and you can see they've put pole guard on the wooden pole, but they've also put line guard on the guy wires above the normal guy guards that they buy, because the guy guards were not stopping the squirrels from getting to the pole mounted equipment cut off at the top of the screen. So it gives you an idea that, pole guard and line guard can be pretty universal depending on what you're trying to protect at the top. Some close-ups about some configurations. On the left, you can see pole guard can be supported on a steel or concrete pole. You see some of the large L brackets we use as a support mechanism. We use steel tensioning bands, the same kind that are used by utilities to hang road signs or stoplights on intersections. So it's a very easy thing to do for the utility to put this on a steel or concrete pole. Holds literally hundreds of pounds of weight, and so that's not going to be a problem. And then you see poles that have conduit or risers on them. It doesn't work in all situations, but it did here. We were able to find a fairly creative way to use additional plates and protect the conduit. So, this has been up now for a couple of years and stopped all the animal problems altogether. So some other things that we offer as options for the pole guard. You see this flexible tube on the picture there to the right. For poles that are not quite large enough, because it's a molded plate that goes around a 12-inch opening. So if the pole was maybe less than 10 inches, you'd have a good inch gap all the way around or more, depending on the size of the pole. And that might be enough for a snake or a chipmunk or some small critter to crawl through that gap. That's what that flexible conduit's for. It's just a gap filler. So it's a very simple, easy way to adapt a pole guard for multiple size poles. So we've talked a lot about, the two major ways that we keep the number one cause of animal behavior from causing problems. That's line guard and pole guard. But okay, what about birds? Birds turn out to be problem number two when it comes to animal behavior. And birds are especially difficult because, number one, in the U.S., bird issues are managed by the U.S. Fish and Wildlife and Game, regulatory agency. And if you happen to, have the bad luck of having an outage where you kill an eagle or an owl and you report it, which you're supposed to do, the Fish and Game Wildlife group will be down your neck for a long time. So it's really a pain. We came up with a way that's a little different than what most people would think about. It's not a mechanical diverter. It basically keeps birds away, just like pole guard and line guard does. It's a block, but it's a vapor block. This is a product that has a scent to it. It's all organic, doesn't hurt anybody, doesn't hurt the birds, doesn't hurt you, but it stinks. Specifically, it's a flavoring that is known to work on many, many different kinds of bird species. Turns out birds have a pretty highly developed sense of smell that emanates or comes through their nostrils in their beak. If you look at a larger bird, you can see these. You see pictures of birds close up, you'll see these big black holes on their beak. That's their nostrils. Smaller birds, it might be hard to pick out, but they all smell, and they all have a fairly highly developed sense of smell. And we've learned with experience, this product, they don't like it. So they might perch, they might land someplace, but they won't stick around. They won't stick around. So that we've had good success with it. So it's sort of like a vapor barrier, but the birds will fly through it. But once they get a whiff of it, they try to figure out what's going on, and then they leave. They don't like it and won't stay. And so it's worked out well in substations. For instance, we have a lot of solar customers. They're unattended. There's nobody there. The birds come, and they, of course, they poop everywhere. The sensitive equipment, it's very acidic. It's damaging to the equipment. And so these bags essentially is what they are. They're easy to hang up, and as soon as they come out of the box, you can smell it, and it chases the birds away. So it's a very popular, maintenance-free way to deal with getting rid of birds when there's nobody there. And again, you can pop off a shotgun, but the neighbors tend to frown on that. We've used bird block in lots of places: substations, overhead lines, cross arms, transformers, generation stations, again, especially unmanned stations, depots and warehouses. The maintenance depot, the trucks load up in the morning, birds are in an open bay or high bay. They'll crap all over everything, and the workers and the linemen have got to deal with bird crap all over their boxes and tools that they're going out to the field with. Service garages, we've got non-utility applications with airports, golf courses, all sorts of things. So we've had success with most birds. I'm not going to say it's 100%. It is dependent on how it gets hung up. If you don't hang it up in the right concentration, depending on the size of the birds, it can be challenging. So we want to guide you through the use of it if you're interested in bird block. We encourage your questions. So there's some examples. There's a couple of different power stations. The one on the left is actually a nuclear power station with huge gas-filled phase conductors up there at the top. And the linemen are using their hot sticks to literally drape bags around the area up there. The birds would light up there and then poop down below on the transformer cabinet, the control cabinet. And with that kind of voltage, you just can't risk it. And it's outside, there's no roof. So how do you keep the birds away? And that worked. Another example on the right, kind of a typical municipal substation. This particular one's a natural gas station. And because it was live, the workers didn't want to shut it down to hang them close enough, at least according to our recommendations. So we came up with the theory, because it's basically a law of diffusion. We hung more bags in one place, and that allowed us to, have more separation than we would have liked between the bags. And as a result, the stronger scent in that location kept the birds away. You see those red, fairly ubiquitous phase covers sold by one of our competitors. Lots of people have those. They make a wonderful place, and just something I encourage you to look for. That's why this utility did this. They make a wonderful place for a bird to nest behind the overlap of those cages. So those red bushing covers create a perfect nesting place for birds to fly in and build a protected nest behind there. Well, that created bait for snakes and squirrels and whoever. And so rather that they'd already done squirrel protection, but they said, well, what if we could get rid of the source? Well, they knew the source was the bird eggs. So by putting up these bags of bird block, they stopped that, and no bird trouble since. So that's a great way to think about it. So that's basically what we've got to talk about. To try to finish up, don't wait for the next attack, because it's going to happen. Unless you're in the desert, there's probably a pretty high chance you're going to have a crawling animal come down the line. So Critter Guard's different from most everybody else you're going to talk to. We block the highway. We don't just cover a device. We keep them from getting to that device. These products are near universal. You don't have to over-engineer what size is it, what voltage rating is it. It's not involved in that. All of these can be installed hot. Obviously, some on a pole, that's usually not an issue. And once it's installed, you don't go back. You don't have to go back and next year or 5 years later and repair it, replace it, take it down so that you can do thermography, and then put it back, and then have the lineman go, oh, I forgot to put it back. Because it never has to be taken down. It's never in a place that's in the way. And so that's, just a few of the highlights of Critter Guard and Line Guard and Pole Guard and Bird Block, and we very much appreciate your attention. Randy, back to you.
Okay. All right. Thanks very much, John. Appreciate it. Okay. If you have any questions for John, put them in the chat and I'll relay them to him. One of the questions I got was, what is the percentage of outages caused by animal intrusion? Is there any statistics on this?
Yeah, there are. If you go back to that page, I believe that it's in the Midwest from a utility perspective, and it varies by region. There's a higher percentage of animal-related outages in the northeast of the United States. So we're talking, Massachusetts, Pennsylvania, New Jersey, lots and lots of trees, lots and lots of squirrel problems. I've seen from year to year those numbers go up to 50 to 70% for outages that are not weather related. Okay, weather related outages are always number one. But beyond weather, squirrels are usually number one. And it can be in the Northeast as high as 50% or more. The stat we put up was in the Midwest. I'm in the Midwest. We have squirrels all the time, but maybe not as many as they do. And I can tell you, we have tons of customers in Ohio's in Michigan, Indiana, popular places for squirrels, Kentucky. So it's like a lot of outages. And so they just keep putting our utility customers keep putting up more and more and more line guards, because the feedback is once we put it up in that location, we never have to go back, and we haven't had any recurring outages in that location. That's one thing we've noticed about squirrel behavior is that when they find a place that they like, they keep going again and again and again. So they get used to it, and they're always there, and they seem to invite their friends and neighbors. And so that's what you want to guard against, and that's what we do. Once we scare them away, basically, because that's what that product does, they're like, I don't know how to get by it. They just go somewhere that's easier.
Okay. The next question from Jeffrey is, what is the temperature rating for the pole barrier? Usually there is a ground conductor installed in the poles, like grounding for surge arresters.
Yes. The plastic that's in that material is rated up to over 200 degrees. When there is a ground wire, again, some of the challenges are if it's a ground wire in a piece of conduit, and if it is, then it might take a little bit of, well, it depends on the size of the conduit. The web of the plate that goes around the pole is about a 4 to 5 inch concentric web that goes around it. And so if you cut out in one place where the conduit is, like a 2-inch conduit, that's fine. That'll work just fine. If you try to take a 6-inch conduit, you've basically cut the plate in half and it won't work. And so there are some poles where pole guard will not work, but in almost all other cases, we've never had an issue.
Yeah, there was a follow-up asking if that 200 degrees was Fahrenheit or Celsius.
Oh, I'm sorry, that's Fahrenheit.
All right, that's what I thought. Okay. What is the life of the product? That was another question that came.
We're still counting. The company has been selling this product since 2001. It's gone through various upgrades and modifications and improvements over the years, but the raw material, the plastic material, is something that we've stuck with that formula for a long time. It is specially formulated for UV resistance, so we know by not only anecdotal conditions, but also by third-party laboratory testing that the sunshine will not degrade this material. So we've had it in service well over 20 plus years with no degradation whatsoever. The major issue is the installation. If the installation is not done properly, or because every line has a droop, and so gravity will pull the rollers one direction or the other. So if the clamps are not applied correctly and the rollers are allowed to slide apart over time because they weren't secured snugly to the line, then what will happen is the rollers will slide, and now the squirrel doesn't have 5 rollers to jump, he's only got 1 or 2. And so it renders it ineffective. But in terms of the material integrity, we're very, very proud to say that it's never had to be replaced because of scoring or hazing or cracking due to UV or temperature. And we've got them installed in Florida, along the equator, in Canada in the snow and ice, all over. So it'll handle all kinds of conditions.
Okay, it was mentioned that that person, Jeffrey, said we usually have bare ground conductor. Does that matter if the product covers bare ground conductor?
It does not matter. Okay. No.
For vapor barrier, can this be smelled by a person?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, it does have a scent that's recognizable to humans. It's not hazardous to humans, but like any scent, actually the main ingredients are basically something that smells like grapes It's a flavoring using candy, but it's obviously, so it is food grade, but it's also pretty strong. So if you were in a closed room like your office and you had a box of this stuff in the office, in short order, you'd want to move the box or get out of the room. But when you move it outside, no problem.
How long does that bird block last? That
We
smell?
we have two formulations. We have a strong scent that is pretty strong when you first use it, and it's designed to, quote unquote, chase the birds away. So if you've had birds in a specific location, we have some precursor things we want you to do to prepare the site, mostly cleaning, get rid of the old residue. But then when you hang it up, that first application should last 6 to 8 weeks or more in typical weather conditions, okay? Then we have a second scent, the second formulation. It's the same product, but it's formulated separately, and it will last up to 6 months.
Okay.
But it's not as strong to chase the birds away to start with. So we sometimes have utilities that will buy both versions and hang them together so that you've got a strong scent chasing the birds away and something that's going to last for several months so that the birds come back. They're like, oh, I remember this stuff. I'm not sticking around. And it's totally organic. It degrades naturally. You can throw it away in normal household trash. The major thing you're going to smell as a person is garlic. Garlic is a well-known, and it's one of the binders in the formula, but it's not the active ingredient.